Hey there! Today we're going to make this rolling animation. Let's get started. Press Ctrl and 2 to subdivide the default cube, then apply that modifier. Press Tab to go into edit mode, then press C to circle select the faces, which we will extrude later. With the faces still selected, press P to separate by selection. Mirror modifiers don't really work for what we're doing, so turn your model and let C to circle select and P to separate by selection. Same thing, turn the model, we're going to C to circle select, then P to separate by selection, and same thing, same thing. Okay, so each of our sides are done. We have the individual panels. We can hide that default cube now because basically nothing is left of that. We just broke everything out into individual items. Next, we're going to begin working on the effect, and what we're going for is a sci-fi grenade or mine, if you will. Here we're going to select the entire side again, and then we're going to hit E to extrude and just bring that out a little bit. Next we're going to select the inner ring, and we're going to scale that in just a little bit for a nice little effect. And that looks pretty good. So just make sure that you always look at your object from all sides, just so you know it looks good from every side. Sometimes there could be surprises on the back side, or you don't like the way it looks from a different side, something like that. Okay, so getting the look of this first side down, after seeing it, I wanted to bring the outer edge out just a little bit more, so select everything and just extrude that just a tiny bit, just to give it some thickness. Before we go too far, let's get an idea of what it will look like as far as having colors. So let's create a new material. We're going to create the first one, which will be red. That's going to be used for the inside. And let's create another one, which we'll name gray, which will be used for the outside. For the gray, just find something kind of nice and then go down to metallic and change that from 0 to a 1. Press Z and 8 to see what our colors look like. Right now it's nothing because we didn't assign anything, so select everything and go back up to the top, hit that gray, and then click assign, and then next we're going to select the inner ring and do the same. For the red, I really wanted an emission so that it glowed, so click your new color and then change it from Principled BSDF to emission, and then give it a nice red color. And we're also going to change the strength from default 1 to, in this case, 3. I thought looked pretty nice. Next, click on the Render Properties tab and select the Ambient Occlusion and Bloom options, and then we're going to expand Bloom and change the radius, in this case, to 3 so it's not too intense. And if you wanted to, you can also change the color to match our material. In this case, I feel like it looks pretty good. Tab out of edit mode, then right click and shade smooth. Give your object a look from all sides, and then we're going to, before we start on the other sides, we want to add in our animation because it's going to make things easier down the road. Press G and then X on the keyboard to bring that in so our object looks like it's closed. Once again, glance at it from all sides, make sure that we don't have any light bleeding through. We're going to press I on the keyboard to set a keyframe, and the first keyframe should be at number 1. Let's just expand this so we can see a little bit better, because our animation is going to be fairly quick, but not too quick. Move the cursor over to the 6th frame. Press G and then X on the keyboard to bring that side out a little bit. Be sure to look at it from all sides once you have it set, just to make sure that there's not gaps. Press I on the keyboard and set it for location and rotation. And now change your ending frame to 6 and test it out. Looks good. Don't forget to save your work. So now's a good time to go ahead and save your project if you haven't done so already. Now that we've completed the first side and we like the look of it, it's time to begin the other sides. I'm going to speed this section up to save us some time. Give your model a look just to make sure that light is not bleeding through. And check it fully expanded just to make sure that you don't see any gaps. Press Shift and A to add a plane axis, then press S to scale that axis up. Select one side, then Shift and select the plane axis. Press Ctrl and P to parent the object. We're going to do this for each side so that when we rotate it, it'll rotate with the axis. Repeat this for each side. Now set a keyframe as is, and then move to the final keyframe, and we're going to rotate that on X 360 degrees. Test it slightly just to make sure that everything is working as expected. In this case, we're going to rotate the empty, not each individual pane, because the objects are parented to the pane, or I'm sorry, to the axis. It will rotate everything together. And now we have an object that both rolls and expands. Next, let's add a plane. Press 1 on the keyboard, and then we're going to press Shift and A in order to add a mesh plane. Let's press S and 10, see what that looks like. Let's take a look around. G and Y to get that better in place, and then S and 3 just to give it a little more size. It's definitely bigger than we need it to be, but it works for our purpose. Press G and Z to bring this plane up just so it touches the bottom of the ball. Make sure you look at it from all sides. For your game, it's not really necessary because it's a small item and seeing lots of details, you know, it doesn't really matter. But for your final render, or at least a screenshot, you're going to want to add a subdivision surface. And what we can do is click on the first cube and kick that up to a subdivision 2. Now select the top cube and then shift select the rest, and then hover over your item, press Ctrl and L, and then we're going to copy modifiers. That will copy that modifier all the way down. We don't need to apply those, it's just to add the topology for a nice screenshot. Alright, now we're going to add some animation, so make sure that your mine is closed, and we're going to set our first keyframe on frame 1. Okay, here what we want to do is we want our animation to start when the mine is closed and not armed. So bring that back here, and then we know that we're going to move this around. So what we want to do is go back up to this empty, let's make sure that we can see that. That's what we're going to use to move this object. So could do it in a straight line like I did it for the intro, but what I'd like to do is add a little curve. So let's go ahead and G and Y, move this down just about there. G and X, let's just move it over. Oh, nope, sorry, scratch that. Okay. Always start by capturing your initial location and rotation. Okay, so then let's just move this up to, I don't know, let's say 6, right? We're only going to go to 20, so let's be conservative. So now G and Y, just bring that down, and G and X, and let's just move it over, and then we're also going to R and X, and make sure that you're going in a forward direction. R and X, forward direction, and then left click and release, and then this time we're going to press I and location and rotation. Okay, so let's bring this up. What, 11 sounds right. Okay, let's G and Y this again, and G and X this a bit just over here, and then don't forget we're going to do R and X. Nope. Make sure you go in the correct direction. Give us a nice rotation. I, location and rotation. And then finally, we're going to G and X back over here. G, oh, nope. We gotta move. We all make mistakes, right? So G and Y, G and X. That looks good. R and X. And I like that for the final screenshot. Left click to release that. I, location and rotation. Now let's take a look. We got a nice animated explosive mod. Okay, so we can hide the empty now, and that is it. So you can render your image, and just press Control and F12 on the keyboard, or you can go up to render and render animation. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I've had fun creating this. It was something that forced me to think outside of the box. I'm sure the pros will tell us there's a better way to do this, but I had fun figuring it out. See you next time.